Welcome back, guys. This is our first post-draft full team grades. This is our report card for these teams. We're going to start with the NFL Eastern teams, so AFC East, NFC East. Yeah, man. Matt, how are you feeling about these teams overall?
Overall, I think the East had some of the stronger draft classes. You're going to see it here in this video. I gave a lot of positive grades. I really like a lot of the moves that were made.
Yeah,
So it should be interesting to talk about.
definitely, yeah. I picked these ones to do first because it has both of our teams in it, so I figured that, teams, if you want to call yours that.
It seems. I don't know. I'm not committed to the Commanders. Maybe I'll set an official commitment date sometime this summer. Right now, it's down to I got Commanders, Saints, and the Lions. Those are my top three. So I'll set an official commitment date, get the hats, lay them out on the table. All the works.
But yeah, man, let's hop right into this. And the first team we are going to start out with in the AFC East here, we're going to start out with the Buffalo Bills. So
Yeah, so
go ahead. I'll let you take us away with this one.
yeah, so you can see all of our grades there. We're not going to talk about everybody. We're just going to talk about some of our personal standouts. So for me, I feel like I got to talk about Keon Coleman here, just because of how interesting the move was, trading down twice and out of the first round so that other teams could draft wide receivers, and then you take Keon Coleman. I don't hate the pick. The move itself confuses me. That's what brings it down, because I do think Keon Coleman has a lot of potential. But the move down twice confuses me. It's not the best move, especially to one rival. It's just that's why I gave it a B plus. I like the move, but did you need to trade down when you could have just gotten someone a little bit better where you were?
For sure, yeah. And yeah, like you said, you trade down with the Kansas City Chiefs and you give them the fastest guy in the draft. Like, you know, how could that ever burn you in the future? And the other thing too
Yeah.
is you lost both of your best receivers in this offseason. You lost Gabe Davis to the Jaguars in free agency, and then you lose Stephon Diggs because he's a little whiny baby and wanted to go somewhere else and not play with one of the best quarterbacks of our generation. You know, that's on him. But that being said, I'd argue he's more of a Gabe Davis replacement than he is a Stephon Diggs replacement. I think he can do slot. He can fit into the slot, but I think you want him more on the outside. He's a really
Yeah.
physical receiver, and he's not fast either. So you're gonna want him in those contested catch situations. But here's the issue with my issue with that is that you look at his PFF grade. He's got one of the worst contested catch rates, and admittedly, that's more the fault of Jordan Travis because that dude could not throw an accurate ball to save his life. Um,
Yeah.
However, it's still an issue because you look at his speed. He doesn't have amazing route running. He did really good in the three-cone drill, which makes up a lot for his really slow 40 time. I think it was like a 4.6 or something like that.
Yeah, and the big difference that you got to pay attention to here when it comes to speed with wide receivers, the 40 time isn't the type of speed you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for a guy
Yeah,
like Xavier Worthy who's just going to be a vertical threat, sure, look at the 40.
yeah,
But Keon Coleman had one of the fastest gauntlet times. He plays much faster than he can run in the straight line.
hmm
And that's what's more important to me and to a lot of teams.
yeah, valid. So moving down the list, the next big one to me that really jumps out, and it's like, damn, this is a really good pickup for me personally, was Cedric Van Pran. I think that's your starting center going ahead. I think, at the beginning of this last college season, um, he was ranked like maybe end of the first round as being like a solid prospect for going into the draft. But as the season went on, he kind of fell a little bit. But I think he's still got that talent. I think he's going to be your starting center going forward in Buffalo. And I think it's a really good value getting him in the fifth round. It's not the third round. It's not the second round. Like, you get him in the fifth round, I think that's a great pickup for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if I could do a little lightning round on some of the other standouts I like, I mean, Ray Davis, absolute workhorse, was insane at Kentucky, and him with James Cook are going to be a really good tandem. Let Ray Davis do the third downs, the really more power back situations, and then if you need some bigger chunks of yards or you want to move a guy out for a reception, go with James Cook. I think it's a good duo. Javon Solomon, he was insanely productive at Troy, did very well at the combine. Troy is not the highest level of competition, so he fell down a lot. He's not huge by any means, but to me, he's a very similar type of player to Chop Robinson. He just doesn't have the same type of production or same type of uh, just publicity around him. So he fell down to the fifth round, but I think it's an excellent pickup. Has the potential to be a solid starter. And then
Tylen
Tylen
Grable,
Grable,
yeah, we had very different grades on him. So let's hear yours. I want
yeah,
to see why you liked him so much.
yeah. So why I like this pick so much? It's not so much that I think he's an A+ player. I think it's an A+ pick in that slot in round 6.
Hmm.
His production was not very good, but his athleticism is off the charts. He has a lot of room to grow. He was one of the better testing offensive tackles in the entire class, and you're getting him in the 6th round. So he can develop, and you're not investing too much since he's a 6th round pick. I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, for me, my big issue with him is, you're missing a lot of the fundamentals that you see in a tackle,
Hmm.
especially with, when it comes to the technical stuff, hand placement, moving your feet, just that basic stuff you don't really see a lot of that with him. And I'm worried about coaching that kind of stuff into him because if it's one or two things, then yes, you can coach that into them with a decent amount of like certainty that you'd be able to do it. But when
Yeah.
it's so many fundamental things that you still need to work on, sure, he's insanely athletic. That's something you can't coach. That's something that's great. Very happy for him. But if there's so much work that he needs to do, it's not a slot that he's going to fit into immediately. I think if you take like a year off, not a year off, but like
Yeah.
year backup, I think you'll be able to fit him in nicely. So again, I don't think it's a plug and play player, but I think you
Oh,
can
yeah.
work. You can
No, I
definitely
agree.
work him up to where he needs to be. He might need 1 or 2 years though in order to get the
Yeah.
techniques nailed down.
I agree, and that's why I have him at an A+.
Hmm.
Because although he does need time, it's a 6th round pick.
Yeah, yeah,
If you're not drafting for either just you need a backup,
yeah,
you're drafting in the 6th round for potential alone.
yeah.
These guys are not going to be starters right away, and Tylen Grable, out of all of the 6th rounders, might have the most potential.
That's fair. And so yeah, you see our grades here on the right. I gave it a B minus. Overall, I feel like it was a very solid draft. I can't really. There's nothing I can really knock against them. A lot of it is just solid picks that I can't really. It's not a lot of like home run ones. I think the Cedric Van Pran one is a home run, but other
Yeah,
than that, I didn't really see any more. I like Javon Solomon, like you too. But yeah, I think
yeah,
B minus is very accurate for them. There's a couple moves I wouldn't have made, like I wouldn't have traded down where they were. Um,
hmm,
I would have taken that first trade down. Would not have done the second one. So, but I'm
yeah,
happy with what they did. Well, I'm happy that they let the Chiefs get a wide receiver because I like seeing the Buffalo Bills lose. But that's just me.
yeah. And I gave it a B+. Kind of same ballpark.
Yeah,
I think there's some really good things, but most of them are kind of in the middle rounds where, hitting an A+ in the middle rounds doesn't mean as much as hitting an A+ in the first or second round.
for sure. You get an A+ in the middle rounds. You're looking at maybe like a starter. You're not looking at a
Yeah.
Pro Bowl caliber player. You're looking at a starter there. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Let's move on to Miami Dolphins here. A much smaller draft, thank God. Can't deal with like the 10 pick drafts, dude. That shit's so annoying.
Yeah. And sticking with teams that nailed the middle to late rounds, in my
Yeah, right.
opinion.
100%. So I'll start this off here. This is our biggest my guy in the draft. We love Chop
Hmm.
Robinson coming in here. I still love him. I think he's got phenomenal potential.
Yeah.
My biggest issue with it is like, dude, you took him too early, and you took a position that you really like. You've got a decent
Yeah.
depth at with Jalen Phillips and the other guy whose name I'm forgetting, Chubb, Bradley Chubb.
Yeah.
Yeah, but however, I will say, if you're a Dolphins fan and you see this pick, that terrifies you because that probably means that Chubb or Phillips, one of them are not doing well injury wise, and they
Yeah.
have
It's
been
either
injury
injury
prone.
wise. It's either injury wise or they're not planning on bringing Phillips back because his
Yeah,
contract is coming up.
yeah,
Um, And especially, I mean, I wouldn't feel too confident about either of those guys coming back because they also drafted Mohamed Kamara.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a scary pick, but I mean, like you said, it's one of our biggest my guys. We both gave it a C plus.
I like
Uh,
if he wasn't such a my guy and I wasn't pulling for him as much to get first round pick, I probably would have given it a C because you had interior O line available, which you need help with. You
yeah,
had more tackle prospects available. You had you could have gone wide receiver, and you could have gotten a good wide receiver there and like really bolstered your offense.
yeah,
But it is stuff that is taken care of a bit later. But again, I love the fact that he got drafted so early. I think he deserves it 100%. Incredibly talented guy and really good guy too.
yeah. And I mean, just looking at the middle of the pack here on these picks, I mean, you gave 1A and then 2A pluses. I gave 3A pluses here.
Yeah,
The middle rounds for the Dolphins are so good, and
They
there's
killed it.
such
Yeah,
and I also love throwing in the Taj Washington pick too at the end. I just love that they're such Dolphins players. They're all speed threats.
Yeah.
Even on defense with Mohamed Kamara,
Yeah.
they are speed threat guys, and that's the Dolphins brand under Mike McDaniels. So I think that Jalen Wright, Malik Washington, Taj Washington are going to be awesome on that offense. And Malik Washington, that's one of your big my guys. I really like Malik Washington too.
Loved Washington.
I mean, I personally would have him at maybe a round 3 grade, and they got him in the 6th round.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an absolute steal in my mind. Taj Washington, a lot of work to do developing him, but very fast, athletic player.
Yeah.
So seventh round, not much risk there. I like the pick.
Yeah. I can't disagree with any of these. Taj Washington was a little bit lower on, but it seems like you really hated Patrick McMorris. What was your deal
Yeah,
with that?
so that kind of goes back to my philosophy of the late round picks. You need high potential guys, or you want high
Okay.
potential guys. So for me, I looked at his combine. I looked at a lot of things with him. His athleticism just leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that this is a drafting for backup type pick, and that's the type of pick I don't like as much.
Gotcha.
It's less risky. You'll probably see him. He might not be a starter at any point, but he'll be a good special teamer. He'll be a good backup. So it's just nothing flashy. It's nothing that's going to develop into anything more.
Okay. Gotcha. For sure.
His production was pretty good at Cal, though. So
Yeah.
his technique and stuff is good, but I think that's why he wound up in the 6th round. He just doesn't have NFL athleticism, but he has the technique.
That's
So it'll
valid.
be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah. Our first like 5 picks in this one were all pretty accurate. I was a little lower on Jalen Wright than you. I love the pick for them, and I think that's a good fit for them as well because I think Jalen Wright really reminds me of like what's it called that running back that they have right now, Raheem Morris.
Mostert.
Mostert, yeah.
Yeah.
Raheem Morris is the coach. Uh, but he reminds me a lot of Raheem Mostert, and I think learning behind him, you're going to get a really good
Yeah.
mentor there, and I think that's a great fit for them. But I think there's other positions that they could have gone instead, but I still love the pick for them. I think that they nailed that middle round. I think a B plus is fitting for them.
Yeah, I
might
give
have
it an
gone
A minus.
I might have gone A minus. I think overall I probably had if I averaged it out, I think I probably would have averaged a higher grade than you. But
Oh, maybe. I never bothered with that. I just ballparked it.
yeah,
So,
for sure. I didn't average any of these either. And
Yeah.
I also put a lot more value on the earlier rounds than I will
Yeah.
them. Like if a team like this, if they get 3 like A pluses in the middle rounds and then like their first 2 rounds are Fs, I'm not gonna give you a fucking A plus because you got 3 A plus picks in the middle rounds. Like that's it. That sounds like a
Yeah.
Raiders draft right there.
Well, for me, when it comes to stuff like that, like if it's a high potential hit, in my opinion, like good fit, very high potential, like for example Malik Washington, for me that brings a lot of value because I mean you look around the
100%.
NFL, not every Pro Bowler comes from the 1st and 2nd round.
Oh,
In
yeah.
fact, a lot of them come from outside of that. So while those are the most important rounds, you need to nail the 1st and 2nd round. If stuff falls out of that, it's still a good pick in my opinion. Those guys are still going to be pretty good.
Yeah. All right, so On to my New England Patriots. And this is going to be an interesting one, too, because I was higher on a few players here than you, and you are higher on a couple players.
I'm higher on this draft as a whole than you are, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'll start this off. Drake May, quarterback out of North Carolina. Love the pick.
Yeah.
And
You got his jersey on right now.
yeah, definitely. It's definitely
Yeah.
number 10, right? Yeah, number 10.
Yep.
Um, but I love that pick, and I'm in the as far as I'm thinking, he was the number 2 consensus pick in my opinion. He should have been. And we'll get into my thoughts on the who actually went number 2 later, but I really love Drake May's play. I reminds me a lot of like a Justin Herbert and Jordan Love if they had like a kid. Um, yeah, don't get that image in your head.
Don't look that up on Google.
Don't look that up on Rule 34. You will not be very happy.
Oh God.
Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. I think the fact that he falls to you at number 3, that makes it a steal because I think any other draft he'd be like the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
But you get to I'm sorry. I'll let you say your piece if you want to.
Yeah. No, I would like to. I
Drake
think
may or
that they
may
did.
not. Let's see what you think about him.
I think Drake May is an outstanding pick. I agree that in most years he is worthy of the first overall pick. Very, very talented guy. But for me, the real keys to this draft, because Drake May, it's the number 3 overall pick. I'd be surprised. I mean, you have to be really stupid not to nail a top 3 pick.
Yeah.
Panthers. But you look outside of the top 3 that they did. I mean, I love Jalen Polk. I thought he wasn't getting enough hype out of Washington. Romo Dunze was the big guy there, but Polk was damn good too. He put up great numbers. Super talented player. They drafted him a little bit higher. There were still some guys on the board, maybe Adonai Mitchell, guys like that. But I still love the fit.
I was pissed when we drafted him, but the more I looked
Yeah.
into him and I actually watched like all of his targets and his highlights and everything, I was like, okay, this guy's kind of a dog. I like him.
Yeah, and then you look at Javon Baker, who I also really love, coming from a heavy air raid offense at UCF, lots of passing there, and excelling there. He was a very talented player. I think he's an absolute steal for the 4th round. Lots of potential with him.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I mean, Marcellus Dial, I have to rep the Gamecocks, although he's not fantastic.
He's a special teamer. He's a special teamer.
Yeah, I don't think he has the highest potential. He was decent with South Carolina, but for our standard of corners, I mean, we had J.C. Horn, Cam Smith, Stephon Gilmore in the past. He doesn't match up to our number 1 corner in the draft standard. Personally, not my favorite Carolina player. Still love him. Still hope the best for him. Joe Milton, I think in the 6th round, is an interesting pick. He's got a lot of upside, but for the most part,
God, the dude does not know how to play fucking quarterback though.
Yeah,
the dude,
he's just got a crazy arm. That's it. That's literally it.
He's
he
got
has
the
an
strongest
insane
arm, probably even in the NFL. It's just that look, the dude does not know how to play quarterback. Dude, he should shift to tight end. He should have shifted to tight end 3 years ago. But
yeah. And then just run some trick
talent.
plays. Run some, like, Statue of Liberty plays with them or something.
Dude, yeah, some Wildcat plays with Joe Milton
Yeah.
there. That would be insane. And then I think Jakeem Bell is just a crazy, crazy value player.
Yeah, 7th round. I was so shocked that he fell to the 7th round. As you could tell, I'm a Carolina fan. I hate this guy. Yeah, I really hate him for transferring out and the way that he transferred out. If you don't know, it's complicated, and he sucks for what he did. But he's a very talented player. I do think, obviously, there are some personality concerns, but it's a 7th round pick.
Yeah.
He has talent to go in like the 4th round. It says that he's a tight end. I do think he's best at tight end, but I've seen him play all over. At South Carolina, he played some snaps at running back. He played fullback. He played out wide, I think, a few times. He's very, very flexible and athletic. For a 7th rounder, I think it's a steal. At the very least, you're getting a really good special teamer.
Yeah, 100%. Now, for the players that I was lower on, oh my God, I was about to throw something across the room because I wondered if Bill Belichick was still there because we drafted Caden Wallace, the tackle out of Penn State, 68th
Yeah.
pick in the draft. I was livid, dude. I was about
I
to kill
genuinely
somebody.
think I genuinely think they just saw, oh, Penn State tackle? That must be Olu Fashanu. And then tried to pick him up, not knowing that
Or
he was already
Kingsley
gone.
Stuamatia or Kieran
Yeah.
or no, Kieran Amagaje is from Yale.
Nope.
He's from
Yeah.
Yale.
Yeah.
But yeah, I and I'm pretty sure Kingsley Sumatia was still available. Like that's
Yeah.
the part
There
that
were
pisses me off.
such better players
There's
available
so
at
many better
tackle.
players available. You could have gotten,
Yeah.
and he played right tackle also, and that's where you have Michael Onwenu, which I guess
hmm
maybe you could have. And we also just got Chukwuma Okafor. I think that's how you say his name.
I appreciate the effort. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was nice.
Uh, definitely wrong. But he also plays right tackle. I think they're saying that they're going to shift him over to left tackle, which is fine. He's a really solid player. I hope the best that he'll do great there. And I'd love to see Caden Wallace do well too, but he's more of a developmental prospect. He's not a plug-and-play player. He's not going to protect Drake May if you put him in. The dude is going to get beat. So I'm just... Layden Robinson's I was a little bit higher on. I think he's more of a high-ceiling player than Caden Wallace was.
Yeah, I do
So,
think the ceiling is a little bit higher. I think his production at A&M concerns me a lot,
mm-hmm.
especially at guard. Guard, you need to be a little bit more athletic and a little bit smaller, so that helps a little bit. But having that athleticism and still not producing at A&M,
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you're going up against some really talented guys, but you're blocking interior guys, not edge. So, you don't. The speed's only going to help you on pull blocks and stuff. How are you going to block these interior guys with strength?
Yeah. All right, and so yeah, you see here, I gave it a B. I was really, really colored bad by that Caden Wallace pick, and it really
Yeah.
made me worry for our O line this coming season. But that being said, I think we have our quarterback of the future. We really rebuilt our wide receiver room in this draft, and
hmm
I'm hoping that one of them can emerge as like our true number one threat. Um,
Yeah, and I think that's a good grade here because to me, if literally nobody on this list except for Drake May hits, the draft is still a B.
oh, absolutely.
If you get a franchise quarterback, at the very least, it's a B.
Yeah.
And that's why I gave it an A minus because I think Drake May will hit, and then I think maybe one or two other guys will hit as well. I think Polk or Baker have a good chance at hitting, and then Bell has a good chance at hitting.
Yeah.
So that's why I gave it an A minus.
All right, on to the last, what's it called? The last team in the AFC East. We got the New York Jets here. Now, this is one of the ones that we were a little bit different on. Some interesting picks here that we
Yeah.
chose. I thought their first four picks they nailed. I didn't see any spectacular steals, but I'll start out with Olu Fashanu from Penn State. Really, really good, sound, fundamental pass blocker. You're going to get a guy on there who's going to protect Aaron Rodgers, probably, maybe not tear his Achilles on the third play of his season. And again, that O-line now is going to be hard as a rock with Tyron Smith in there too, and a couple other solid pickups. Morgan Moses, I believe, as well. So yeah, I think that O-line is really well shored up. You're getting a couple veterans in there that Olu can learn from. You get Malachi Corley a lot like, who was it? I'm forgetting the wide receiver at Green Bay that Rodgers had who would catch a lot of the balls behind the line of scrimmage and run. But yeah, that's the type of player he is. He runs like a running back when he's got the ball in his hand. Really, really talented player.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to seeing that in that offense. I think that's an A for them. Braylon Allen, loved the pick there from Washington. I think he's going to be a really solid fit, especially behind Breece Hall. I think you're going to be able to.
Don't worry about that.
You good there?
Don't worry about that.
And then Jordan Travis, the quarterback out of Florida State. I think that is a really solid player that you're getting behind Rodgers that you're going to be able to train up. And if you don't, oh well, he's a solid backup at the very least. Maybe the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers. It wouldn't be the first time a quarterback named Jordan would take over for Aaron Rodgers. So maybe Rodgers is getting a little PTSD, maybe getting a little nervous, but I love those first four picks. I think they're great fits in this Jets offense. And now
Yeah.
you had some different thoughts, like as
Yeah.
we're going
So
down. So let's go ahead, take it away.
yeah. So Olu Fashanu, in my opinion, debatably the best tackle in the class. I don't think he is. I think Alt is better. And I think Mims is a little bit higher potential. But I absolutely love the fit. I think he's going to help that Jets offensive line out an insane amount. That's what they needed to pick was tackle. I don't care who it was. They picked a tackle, you get an A plus. That I'm proud of you guys. Thank you. Malachi Corley, I really, really like this guy. I think he's insanely talented, coming from a very pass-heavy offense at Western Kentucky, and he's been a high-volume receiver in I think each of his last three. I know at least the last two seasons he's had over 100 targets and put up around 1,000 yards. High-volume guys are huge in college. I mean, if you can be a high-volume receiver, that translates to a lot of success in the NFL. So I think there's a lot of room for that. Braylon Allen, I think he's very athletic, a very good running back, but that workhorse mentality, that volume running that I was talking about with like Malachi Corley, the ability to be a workhorse and have high volume, high touches, it's hard to see because of how much Washington passed. So that's
Drake reference.
I can't confidently say he's anything above a B plus right now,
Hmm.
but I do really like the player. I think he's good. Jordan Travis is our first big disagreement here. I think he's an okay quarterback. At the very most, he'll be a backup, and I just don't think he barely had enough to be a good player in college, and he doesn't show signs of high
But
potential.
but you were the one that told me when the playoffs came around last year. You were like, yeah,
Oh
the
yeah,
the only reason that Florida State was
hmm
so good was because of him. And like as soon as he got injured, that's why they shouldn't have made the playoffs.
yeah, because he's the only one on their quarterback room who knows how to run their offense. Nobody else touched the field, man.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I do think he was good in college. He is a good college quarterback. Just same way as, like so many other players have been good college quarterbacks and have
Come on,
not
you can
translated.
say the one we're both thinking of.
Johnny Manziel was a great college quarterback, not a good NFL quarterback. Tim Tebow, great college quarterback, not a good NFL quarterback. I
Mac
think Jordan,
Jones.
yeah, Mac Jones, one of the best college quarterbacks. He has the record for passer rating. Not a good NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the signs of being that type of player. So I don't love the pick. I think there are some higher potential guys, or at the very least, if all you're looking for is a backup, you could have waited till later than the fifth round and gotten a solid guy. So I don't love the pick, but I do love the pick for Quantez. I'm not going to say the last name because it's too close to that word. Amazing name. Can we just get that out of the way first? Outstanding name.
So why didn't you say it?
Too close. It's too close. I am not risking it.
Somebody could edit that. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, but I mean, from what I saw, I didn't look up much. I gave him an A plus. Most of that's the name.
He's got a good story.
Yeah,
And he's a foreign player too. He's from England, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be a solid player. I don't really look on it. I find it really hard to rate those international players because everybody wants their foreign player to be the next Jordan Mailata.
Yeah.
Where you get some like random guy who becomes a perennial Pro Bowler. But I'm a little bit lower. I just want to temper my expectations for it. I don't want to be like, oh, this guy's going to be the next like crazy international player.
Yeah, I honestly, since he is a foreign player, there's not enough stuff out there. Like I didn't see too much about him.
100%, yeah.
But I did see his name, and that's enough for an A plus for me.
Love to see that. Yeah, and then very standard Jalen King, safety out of Alabama. It's a round
Yeah.
7 pick. You're not gonna get detailed analysis from us. Sorry, but it's a solid pick.
Overall, I gave it a B plus. I think there are some really, really good picks in here, but for the most part, nothing crazy.
Yeah, I really like this draft for them. Those first 4 picks, I think they nailed it. I think they nailed what they need going into the future. So I gave it an A minus. Could have been persuaded to maybe even give it just like a plain old A, but I still like it how it is now. So that's what I gave it. Oops, there we go. So now that we're done with the AFC East, we're gonna go on to the NFC East here.
Yes.
This is
The
where it
most
gets interesting. This is
one
gonna.
of the most hate-filled divisions in
Oh
sports.
yeah, I I gotta say,
And
collectively,
NFC North is up there too. They
true,
hate each other.
true. Like these three teams, this is like the unholy trinity right here. These
Hmm.
guys are just too irrelevant to really give a shit about.
Yeah,
They
haven't
maybe,
been relevant since the 90s. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
in their league their shortened seasons where they won Super Bowls. Yeah, boo-hoo. All right.
yeah.
Now that Washington's
So
done catching strays, let's pour in on the Cowgirls. So,
yeah, no, I think this draft is really interesting. I wasn't a huge fan of the Tyler Guyton pick, but I do think the potential's there.
yeah.
I the more I saw about Guyton and the more I saw, his athleticism,
Hmm.
his room for growth, the more I liked him as a prospect.
Yeah.
But I liked him to a team that was looking for a long-term development. The Cowboys are looking to win now. Dak Prescott might be leaving after this season.
Yeah.
So your winning window, unless you can either extend him or get another good quarterback, your window is now. It's this season. So Tyler Guyton isn't going to be much help to win you a Super Bowl this season.
Yeah, and when
However,
we're go ahead.
yeah. Well, if it's about Guyton, go ahead. I was gonna
Yeah, no,
talk
I was
about.
just gonna talk about Guyton.
Yeah.
You know, this dude, we when we were researching for mock drafts and stuff like that, we were looking at PFF, we were looking at his stats and everything. Dude, we looked at that stuff and and we looked at his PFF grades and we were like, how the
Uh,
fuck is this guy rated so high?
we were appalled.
This dude, oh my god,
Yeah.
it is horrific.
Yeah.
His numbers are just horrific. Like the worst run blocking in the league, or in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, and really, it is just that athleticism that made
Yeah,
him a first rounder. He still doesn't know how to play offensive line.
yeah,
But he switched over from tight end to offensive tackle. He's athletic as all hell. So if you can coach him up, you can put a few pounds on him, he'll be a really good tackle someday. But that's
for
not going to
sure.
be until years in the future. So
Yeah,
that's why I gave it a B, because I think the potential for him to be an all-pro tackle is there. But it's not going to happen anytime soon, and it's not going to happen when you need it to happen.
and the reason why I gave it a B minus is, yeah, like you said, it's not going to happen when you need it to happen, which is right now. This is a team
Hmm.
that is full of age. You need to get solid players who can fit in where you need. If the Cowboys really do want to get past the first round of the playoffs, um, and win their own Super Bowl there with which is winning the second round of the playoffs. They need to get players that they can plug and play now, and I don't think Tyler Guyton is that. If you had Tyron Smith still there, I'd be like,
Yeah.
great, you have a perfect mentor and you have a perfect replacement for him when he inevitably retires. But nope, Tyron Smith went to the Jets, so you don't have him there anymore. You've got a couple solid mentor players there, but I think your best bet at training him up was, in fact, Tyron Smith, and he's gone. So I don't like that fit necessarily, but I think he has a lot of potential that can be molded well. He's like a block of clay, and if you mold him right, you're gonna get a freaking Michelangelo sculpture. But
Yeah.
you
And
could turn into that SpongeBob episode where he taps it and it fucking shatters.
and for all the reasons that I hate the Tyler Guyton pick, all of those timeline winning window stuff, that's why I love Cooper Beebe.
Oh, 100%. I love
Because his
Cooper
floor is so high.
Beebe.
He is already a very good guard.
I think he's a plug and play player.
Yeah, I think he starts very early in his career, maybe not week 1, but very soon. And he's a round 3 guy. I think it's an absolute steal. It's one of my favorite picks in the draft, which is annoying because it's the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when everyone does their very early mock drafts at the end of the draft cycle for the next year. I remember last year doing
We
it.
got to do one of those, by the way.
We do, yeah. I remember last year seeing people have Cooper Beebe as a first round guy.
Yeah.
And he has the talent. I think he's insanely good. One of the better guards in this draft class. And I think they nailed it.
Yeah, 100%. Just going down the list here. I love Marshawn Nealand, the edge out of Western Michigan. I think, very small school, not a big college program there, but I think He's insanely talented, and I think he's going to fit well in this Dallas Cowboys locker room, especially behind a guy like Micah Parsons, where you can learn a lot from him.
Yeah.
If the hazing doesn't get to him first, but and then Kalen Carson, cornerback out of Wake Forest. I love that pick. I really liked him going in. I thought he was going to be like a late second round, early third round cornerback. And you get him in the 5th round at pick 174. I think that's insane value, and that's why I put an A+, just because I think it's a steal.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing else I feel too strongly about. The rest of the picks are just kind of like, they're there.
Yeah. No, I think some of the picks down in the later rounds, like you said, Kalen Carson, I do like a lot. His production at Wake Forest was really good. Athleticism isn't anything off the charts, but it's solid.
I look at him a lot like a Kamari Lassiter player, where he's going to produce for you. He's not insanely athletic, but he knows all the fundamentals that he needs to.
Yeah.
And I think especially with him, Kamari Lassiter is more of like an every down kind of guy. I think Kalen Carson is a good rotational guy that you're going to be able to put in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be the type of guy that can lock up a DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Someone who's freakishly athletic,
you
know,
get
but
like a second, like a number 2 receiver in there, and you get this guy on him. I think he'll do a good enough job.
Exactly, yeah. And then down the rest of the board, Ryan Flournoy, he's okay. Solid receiver. I think a little bit better than 6th round in terms of floor, but potential's nothing insane. And then Justin Rogers, I just think there's a lot of value in picking up SEC Big Ten guys in the 7th round. Because they play at such a high level of competition. If they're not athletic, or if they're not NFL level athletic, they still have the grit and the competitiveness of the NFL. They still have faced NFL talent on a week-to-week basis. So I think there's some value there, if not just for special teams.
Yeah.
So I give it a B+.
He gave it a B+. I gave it a C+. I'm a little bit lower on it personally. I think, again, I was lower overall in those first couple picks, but especially with the Tyler Guyton one, I'm definitely lower on. But regardless, I don't think it's a terrible draft. I think there's players that are going to play, but I don't think you did enough to really give you guys a fighting chance in this, in the playoffs, where you've already lost with really good teams. And I don't think you really necessarily improved from what you lost this offseason. So, like I said, C+, not a complete failure or anything, but still a little disappointing.
Yeah.
All right, on to the New York Giants here.
Another short one.
Another nice short one. Love to see it. And this is our first grade that we have the same grade for overall.
Yeah, I feel like we agreed on most of these guys. I'm a lot higher on Theo Johnson. But other than that, we had almost the exact same grades.
I'm definitely higher on Andrew Phillips too.
Yeah.
You were very low on him. Malik Neighbors, I think that's just a difference in our opinions on like our grading scale. I think he absolutely is a steal for number 6. I think any other draft he'd be like around a top 5 wide receiver. He's the best wide receiver prospect I've looked at who isn't named Marvin Harrison Jr. So
the only problem with him, and I think this is where your grade differs from mine. The only problem with him is Daniel Jones. So, if you factor in Daniel Jones, it's looking more like an A minus. But just Malik Neighbors, I think it's an A+ personally.
Yeah. And then going down to Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota. Oh man, I was a little bit worried by his combine testing. It did not come out how I wanted it to. However, I still think he had insane talent. And I think he was at least a late first round pick. And to get him at pick 47, I think that is a huge steal. You got your first real solid safety since Jabril Peppers was there. And I think you have a really good you just got a really good plug-and-play player that's going to be there for the next, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, I think he's the best true safety in this class. There's some other guys who might move over to safety. I hope they don't. I'm talking about Cooper DeJean.
Yeah.
But as far as true safeties go, I think Tyler Nubin's the best. Like you said, the combine was a bit concerning, but for the most part, he's very, very sound and was a cornerstone of Minnesota's defense this year.
Yeah.
A team that kind of exceeded expectations a little bit. They still weren't amazing, but you know, I think it's an outstanding pickup. You really need some secondary help for the Giants, so picking him up is really solid. And then for me, Theo Johnson, the production's not there at all. Really, he had a decent career at Penn State, but his athleticism testing was insane.
It
I mean,
was, yeah.
he is insanely, insanely athletic. So the room for improvement, the potential is really, really high. It's just if you can coach him up. Are you confident in coaching a guy like this up? And if you're not, it's a 4th-round pick. You didn't lose much.
Yeah.
So
yeah, A- from both of us. Really solid picks. Those first couple ones. Really, really good players that are going to be cornerstones for them for the future.
Yeah.
All right, now on to the Philadelphia Eagles. They can't keep getting away with this, bro.
I hate this team so
Dude,
much.
like,
I feel like you put the C+ in there just to put him down a peg.
I mean, obviously not, because I gave him a fucking A+.
I cannot stand that they get away with this stuff. I mean, they got arguably the best 2 corners in the class. They got Anais Smith, who could be like a 3rd-round wide receiver. They got Jeremiah Trotter, who's arguably the best linebacker in the draft, in the 5th round. Like, what's going on here? How are we just letting all the best players fall to the Eagles whenever they want to take them? It doesn't matter what round they want them; they'll just get them.
It's drafts like this that make me think that Howie is just a bro, because the dude just does what makes sense. Like, why is it so mind-boggling for other teams to do the same shit? Like, dude, okay, trade up and get the best cornerback in the draft. Okay, sure. Here, let's trade back up and get the 2nd best corner in the draft. Sure, why not? Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, in division rival. Yeah, let's do it. Idiots. Shipley at running back out of Clemson. You get a full-on bull running back from Clemson.
Yeah, talk about a workhorse. I mean, that guy, I've watched him for years because I'm a Carolina fan. I hate that he went to Clemson, but he is a workhorse. He is the definition of a workhorse running back. I've seen him go 30-plus touches a game in multiple weeks straight.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's outstanding, which pisses me off. Same with Jeremiah Trotter, very talented linebacker.
Yeah, and also, that's a legacy pick. His dad is in the Eagles Hall of Fame.
I'm pretty sure he's wearing the same number as his dad, too.
Probably, yeah. Trevor Keegan, interior lineman from Michigan.
Yeah, the fact that their misses are B's and B pluses pisses me off.
Yeah.
But
and then one of my most interesting players in this draft, in my opinion, Johnny Wilson. I am so intrigued to see what happens to him. I'm just begging that they're not just like, nah, you're too tall, be a tight end. I think he's deserved a chance to try out as wide receiver and play as wide receiver.
Yeah, and
he's
then if wide receiver
7, dude, I want to see that dude just moss people on the outside.
If wide receiver doesn't work, then you give him the Darren Waller treatment. You say put on some pounds where you're going to play tight end. But start him at wide receiver. Like, he made it work at Florida State. See if he can make it work. He's got a very interesting
style of route running that he's got like this really weird move that he does that makes him shake off defenders in like the first couple steps, and it's not something I've really ever seen before, so I'm curious if that translates to the NFL. So we'll see about that. So yeah, overall I had to give this an A+, man. I could have given it an A, sure, but and it pisses me off, dude. It pisses me off because I hate the Eagles. But, man, dude, they killed it. What's our biggest need going into the draft? Cornerback? Let's get the top 2 best corners in the draft. Sure, why not?
It seems like they can just get away with whatever they want. I give it an A, mostly out of spite. It is an A+. It's an A+. It's mostly out of spite. This is arguably the best draft out of all of them.
And every year it's the same shit. Every year.
Please do not move Cooper DeJean to safety. Let us white boys prove we can do it. Please.
White boy summer, baby.
We stand with Cooper.
All right. Now we're on to the spicy one of this draft.
The biggest disagreement between us two.
So, I'll take away mine, or I'll go ahead with my negativity with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
So with Jaden Daniels, I think I will start off with what I like about him. I think he's a winner. He won the Heisman in the SEC, which is very difficult to do. Insane production this last year. And he's a really accurate passer. I love to see that. He's a great running ability. And I think he's going to be a dynamic playmaker in that regard. I'm a little bit worried because I think it's a Justin Fields 2.0 situation, because I see a guy that he doesn't ever throw on the run. He gets out of the pocket, and he's got about the same throw on the run rate as Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix Jr. is the epitome of a pocket passer. If he's going out of the pocket, he's usually just going to be running. The dude does not know how to protect himself from big hits. The dude's going to get injured like that. And hopefully, he gets injured and then learns his lesson and learns to protect himself. Just kind of like how you treat a child, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But also, the arm strength is not all that. And I'm just worried because also the dude's a fifth-year player, and this is the first year he's really done this well. It's not like he has like the track record that the last couple quarterbacks that got drafted are. And I think very firmly he was going to be the third QB picked in this draft. And then out of nowhere, all this hype gets built up. And I think the Commanders let themselves hear the hype a little too much. And they got this guy because I think they were thinking, oh, this kid, we can get another try at a Robert Griffin III style player. So I do hope it works out for him. And the other thing, too, with him, I should mention, is that the dude he didn't perform well. I mean, he did perform decently well his last year, but he didn't perform at this level until he had two of the best wide receivers prospects that we've seen in the last couple of years. So I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, can I take over here? So I disagree with a lot. First off, the one thing I'll bring up, because you did bring up the Heisman. The Heisman's a big deal in this, that he won it in the SEC. Yes, he did have insane wide receivers around him. Still not easy to do. I mean,
sure.
Other quarterbacks are just as good in the SEC from a talent standpoint, but his mental game is much farther beyond a lot of quarterbacks. He needs to do a better job when it comes to taking hits. I agree. He's not the heaviest quarterback. I think he's around 205 pounds, and he's maybe 6'3", 6'4". Mm-hmm. He's a little skinny. He needs to either put on some weight or do a better job sliding, really, which they will coach him up to do in the NFL, because if they don't, they're going to waste his career on injuries.
I wonder where we've ever seen that before with Washington.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that scares me about this pick. Other than that, if he stays healthy, I think it's a home run. He is one of the best pure passers in this draft, which a lot of people don't realize because he runs the ball well and because that's kind of his calling card, because it's unique to him. People compare him to Lamar Jackson. I think as a prospect, he's a million times better as a passer than Lamar Jackson ever was.
Yeah.
And just as good of a runner. So I think his ceiling is insanely high. I think his floor is a lot higher than people realize. The injuries are a concern.
I agree that his floor is a lot higher but for me, it's purely because he is so proficient at running the football. I think because of that, he immediately look at Justin Fields. The dude put up like one of the best rushing seasons a quarterback's ever had, and was keeping them in games. So
yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say too, Caleb Williams had elite wide receivers. He had Jordan Addison. He won a Heisman, sure. Yeah. But then Drake May, he's also had NFL wide receivers. He never won a Heisman.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, the production, when it comes to quarterbacks, production does matter. And like you said, it has been mostly this year that his production has been over the top Heisman. But he was still damn good last year. LSU was an insanely good team last year, too.
Was he was damn LSU good last year?
He was, yeah.
Oh,
he spent 2 years at LSU.
I thought he was still at Arizona State.
He started off at Arizona State, and obviously he didn't perform well because it's Arizona State. But then once he came to LSU, Yeah, once he came to LSU, he skyrocketed.
Hmm.
And part of that could be, he has actual talent around him. But the other thing I'll bring up, if you're going to say, he's not actually that good because he had an insanely good talent around him, the talent around him is NFL caliber guys. That's what's going to be around him when he's in the NFL.
That's fair. But he's also playing against NFL caliber
And
defenses.
he was doing that too in the SEC.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
The only thing
I
I'm worried
think,
about is that O line. That they did.
yeah.
You guys did not do. You guys, the Commanders did not do much to help that O line.
Yeah, and that's where you need to really coach him up, and that's why I'm glad that he's being coached by a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, who's a fantastic quarterback coach. I mean, if he can learn from him and do kind of what Mahomes does when it comes to scrambling, kind of what Lamar Jackson did this year that led to his MVP, where you get out of the pocket and then you look downfield and throw before you decide to run.
Hmm.
I mean, if you see an open guy downfield, you make that throw. Because I'll take 15 yards over 5 and maybe an injury every single day.
Yeah.
So if he can look downfield when he's out of the pocket, which something that Cliff Kingsbury knows how to coach up, that's what he did with Patrick Mahomes, then he'll turn out to be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback and maybe, go into that top 10 discussion, which I think he has the potential to do.
Yeah.
I love the pick. But let's move on. Let's not talk all about Jaden Daniels.
So
Um,
yeah, on to Jazon Newton. It's a phenomenal value for round 2.
yeah, I think the next two picks we definitely agree on here. Huge steals. When we were watching this live with Jazon Newton and Mike Sainristil going back to back to, well, not back to back, but the next two picks to the Commanders, we were both like, oh, they're doing a good job here.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this is where these two picks, we're going to start dinging them. I love Mike Sainristil, right? I love Mike Sainristil. I think he's one of the best corners in the second round that could have been drafted. However, let me talk about Newton first. With Newton, I love the pick. I love the value. I think it was an insanely good pickup for Washington. But you're picking a player who is insanely talented, don't get me wrong, but it's one of the very few positions that Washington is actually good at right now. And you can say, oh, it's a depth position, sure. And it's like, Jonathan Allen and whoever the other guy was. Not Sweat. Sweat's gone. Who's the other guy that's at tackle?
Darren Payne.
Yeah, Payne. They're not getting any younger, so they're getting good mentors at the position for Jazon Newton. That's great and all, but it's still a position regardless that you are going to be okay with for the next couple of years. So that's why I didn't give it an A+. I would have given it an A+ if there was anything else to it.
Yeah.
Now, with the next pick, I love Mike Sainristil. I love it. But God, the more I look back on this pick, the more I hate it. Because why did they have this pick in the first place? Because they traded down with Philadelphia and let their in-division rival get the second best corner in the draft, which you could have gotten.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's very similar to the Bills with Keon Coleman. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing here is maybe they just didn't want an outside guy. Maybe they wanted a slot corner.
I guess, but I think the fit with Cooper was a lot better than Sainristil, and I love Sainristil, but I still think Cooper would have fit a lot better.
No, I agree.
And that's why it pisses me off, and that's why it takes me down to this, rating here. I would have given it an A+ if it didn't have that. Like, I knock it down one grade for the trade, and then I'm knocking it down again because of the fit. I love the fit and I love the talent. It's just, oh man, I'm knocking it down again because of that. It's just, it annoys me when I think about it because you let that happen. You could have avoided that from happening. And now this fucking cornerback is going to be like lighting you guys up and picking off your brand new quarterback for the twice a year for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, for me, with these two picks, Jazon Newton, I think, speaks to where the direction of that defense is going. I think Jonathan Allen or Darren Payne is either going to move, one of them is going to move to the outside, and you're going to run a heavy set on that defensive line, or I think one of them is going to get moved. They're both getting older. They're both very expensive. Um, so trade them, get some value, maybe get picks, and help get that O line better. Because that should be the focus moving forward, and that's why I like the Brandon Coleman pick, especially with the athleticism and the production that he put up at TCU. Um, I think Ben Sinnott is a great pick. He has a lot of value, a lot of upside for where they got him.
For sure.
This isn't a very deep tight end class. There are better tight ends out there, but for the tight end class that it is, you need a tight end. You got a decent one, so I don't mind it.
I would have preferred a Theo Johnson here, but I think he was a better prospect coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't hate Ben Sinnott. I think it was a solid pick. I can't get too mad about it. And I think he was also tested really well physically, so I'm not mad about that at all.
Yeah, and then Luke McCaffrey. I personally
skipping over Coleman.
I already talked a little bit about Coleman.
Okay.
I think he's got a good amount of athleticism. He had put up decent production at TCU, and he should be at the very least decent for the Commanders. As for Luke McCaffrey, at first I thought it was just a name pick. Third round. Why are you going with Luke McCaffrey from Rice? But then I watched him play a little bit. His testing was good, nothing insane, but he plays fast. And he plays with insane body control. It actually, some of the catches that I saw reminded me a lot of my favorite player in the draft, Xavier Legette, because of that body control. The way that he can contort his body in the air, get his feet in bounds, and still make the catch, I think is huge. And I saw I've seen jokes all over the internet already with him and Lad McConkey saying, kind of looking like what's his name on the Rams? I'm blanking on his name because I'm stupid. Cooper Kupp, yeah. And it's like, nah, they're just white. But I personally think it's a great pick. There are better wide receivers out there, yeah. But the upside's there. The name value's cool. I think you do a good job developing him, it'll turn into a really solid pick.
All right, now Mr. Grinch over here is going to start.
Yeah,
talking.
I'm curious to see what in the world could make these two picks an F.
All right, so I'll start with Luke McCaffrey because I have less ground to stand on with that one than I do with the other one. So with Luke McCaffrey, it's purely out of who was available at the time of the pick. I think there were a million better prospects that were available. You're getting a guy who you can use the inexperienced line because he was a quarterback a couple of years ago and then just changed over to wide receiver. I don't love that as an excuse. I love his hands. I love how aggressive he is as a wide receiver. I think, he plays, like you said, with a lot of body control. Mm-hmm. But this is the 100th pick in the draft. I don't think that Luke McCaffrey, I think if his name's not McCaffrey, I think the dude goes in like the 5th round. I'll be honest with you. I don't like this fit at all. It's 2 rounds too early for me. You have wide receivers that I think play a lot like him, like a Terry McLaurin with that insane body control that we were talking about. He's not a receiver that I had graded this highly. Again, I think it's all name. And obviously we're going to disagree on how important these different factors are. But yeah, that's all I have for Luke McCaffrey. I didn't do a lot of looking into it, but I just think with the players who were available at the time, Malik Washington, I think should have gone here. I think that would have been an infinitely better choice, and I think it still would have been a little bit late for Washington to go. But now I go on to Brandon Coleman. With Brandon Coleman, he played tackle at TCU. And he was not good as a tackle. I don't love that, obviously. But people are saying, oh, it's fine because he's going to move in to be an interior O-line. And then he did at the Senior Bowl, and he was doing all of the same shit, making all the same mistakes at guard that he was at tackle. He wasn't moving his feet. Dude did not know how to use his hands blocking. I think this dude, again, was like a 5th or 6th round prospect. This is the 67th pick in the draft. You need to get somebody with a solid floor for talent at the 67th pick, especially if you're Washington. You're getting a rookie quarterback. You need to get him help. It just infuriates me because I think there is, again, much better prospects available. Hell, I would have been less hard on them if they picked up Caden Wallace, who my Patriots drafted. I cannot get behind this because I think, sure, he's a tackle moving over to guard, and they say, oh, he's going to be better at guard. He wasn't better at guard when he played at the Senior Bowl. I'm just,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
for me, that pick is very much a potential pick. His athleticism is a lot better than where he's at currently.
Sure.
His production was passable at the college level, or else he wouldn't have started.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything spectacular. So I can agree somewhat, and that's why I only gave it a B plus instead of anything higher.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a potential pick at the very best. But as for Luke McCaffrey, I think you're wrong. To put it bluntly, I've got PFF pulled up here on my phone. I'm gonna read you some stuff. So this past year, overall, he put up an 80.1 grade, 120 targets, 71 receptions, 992 yards, and 13 touchdowns.
Okay.
He had 14 yards per touchdown and a 4.1 drop rate. He put up spectacular stats at Rice. Obviously not against anything crazy, but what he did do really well was contested catch. Mm-hmm. He was tied for the second most contested catches in college football,
which I will take note of. That was one of the things I pointed out. I was like, I think he's really good. He's really aggressive, really good contested catch player.
Yeah, and he got an 82.7 receiving grade, which is around the 80th percentile. He had a 60.7% contested catch rate. So over half the time he makes those catches, which is significantly better than Keon Coleman with a significantly worse quarterback, which is the main knock on Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
So I think, because he went to Rice, there was a lot of things overlooking him. A lot of people didn't love that he went to Rice. And then beyond that, because he was a quarterback and switched over, a lot of people overlooked him. And then beyond that, because this is kind of a hot take, and I don't know if I believe it 100%, but there could be some people who view it this way. Because he's a McCaffrey, and he's not a crazy top prospect, people might think of him as like the Seth Curry to Steph Curry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I think it's complicated, but, we've kind of had this talk a few times about reaches in the NFL draft. To me, it's a bad pick no matter what if you could have gotten them later on.
Which I think you could have. That's my belief.
I think you might have been able to. You probably would have at pick 3, round 3, pick 100. But the thing is, too, you look back at the Lions and how they draft, going out and getting Jahmyr Gibbs, going out and just getting their guys. If it works out, it works out. It might not be the best pick in the world, but the A- grade I'm giving Luke McCaffrey is on how good I think he's going to be. I think he has the potential to be a really solid number 2, number 3 wide receiver.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might take a long time. He has potential to be a number 1 guy, too. He has the athleticism. He has the body control, and he's new to wide receiver. So it might take time. But they desperately needed help and depth in that wide receiver room, especially after losing Curtis Samuel. At the very least, it is fun to have a McCaffrey on the team.
Yeah.
So that's why I gave this draft class an A-. The other picks,
me a lot lower over here.
Yeah. The other picks we all kind of we agreed on for the most part, other than Daniels and then those two.
Yeah. So my kind of like wrap up with this draft. Overall, it's the same team that did the Jaden Daniels overlooking Drake May, and then then you go down to the Coleman and McCaffrey pick, and it makes me think like, oh, this team is like sipping their own Kool-Aid, like they're buying into themselves like way too much.
Yeah.
They think they're the shit. They think, oh, we got solid. We're really good. We're gonna be able to develop these guys no matter what. Like, who cares what the experts say? We're gonna defy consensus and do all this bullshit. No, you need to get some solid talent in that room, locker room first before anything else, and then you can start developing them. And sure, with the regime change and with the returning players, you've got some solid, talent in there. It's just I don't really
Yeah,
I
I mean,
don't see.
for me, as far as this coaching regime and everything goes, these guys have a lot of experience. They're not anything crazy high names or anything like that, but they have a lot of experience and they have some success here and there. I mean, Dan Quinn, he's not the most successful, but he was there. He was there when the Falcons made the Super Bowl. It didn't go as planned, but he made the Super Bowl with the Falcons, and he got Matt Ryan an MVP. That there's something to be said for that. Cliff Kingsbury made Kyler Murray look like a good quarterback. People thought Kyler Murray was a top 10 quarterback when Cliff Kingsbury was there. I think, like you said, I do think they are drinking their own Kool-Aid. The question is it tasting good or not?
Is it poisoned?
Yeah, is it tasting good? Is it poison? What's in the Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
That's the main question here. I think this group of guys has a lot of spunk. That if there's anything about Washington sports is scrappy. That's how it has always been. The Nats have always been scrappy, especially now. Go Scrappy Nats. Capitals always been scrappy. I think that this team, it's a ragtag group of guys. It's a very confusing group of guys. But, if the coaching hire of Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury hits, this could be a contender in the division very much sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. If they're able to develop these players correctly, they can turn to franchise pieces for sure. It's just,
Yeah.
And historically, have they been able to? Not exactly. And there's been a lot of turmoil.
Sorry to cut you off, but this just hit me. Comparison for Luke McCaffrey. A lot of people said the same thing about James Cook, that he's just a legacy pick. His brother's really good, so he shouldn't go that high. And then James Cook turned into a very high-quality running back for the Bills.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
sorry to cut you off.
No,
that was
you're
just something
good.
that just
You're
popped
good,
into
man.
my mind.
Yeah, no, that's valid. That's a valid comparison there. What was that?
What's up? Yeah. So
All
let's
right.
see our official report cards. We're going to keep on updating this as we go through the divisions. So this is David so far at the top.
Eagles at the top here. Jets, I love those first 4 picks. Gave them all A's. So I love that. I put them right above the Giants. Some grades you'll see do have the same actual letter grades, but if I do rank them above each other, it's not like it's equal. I actually do have the Jets above the Giants, even though
this is us ranking them. Yeah.
So they're Dolphins, my Patriots right there in the middle at 5, Bills with a B minus, and Cowboys and Commanders at the bottom. So, Eagles I think are going to remain at the top for the entire draft cycle because they had the most insane draft as always. Then we're on to you here.
Yeah, for me, I do have the Eagles number 1 as well. I have the Patriots number 2. Congratulations. And then I do Commanders, Giants, Dolphins, Bills, Jets, and Cowboys. That's my list so far. Things will spread out. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I think the East did a very good job drafting. Yeah. So while the lowest grade I gave out is a B plus over time.
Slide. Whoops. I was like, I thought I remembered having another slide back there, but nah.
Jeez. While I do, what was I saying? Fuck.
While we're going down this list, while we're rating them.
Yeah. So the even though, fuck. The lowest grade I gave out was a B plus, but over time that's going to change a lot because there's going to be a lot of other teams that didn't draft as well. The Falcons are going to pop up at some point. There's a lot of teams that are really going to round this out. There are 32 teams, lots of room to be pessimistic.
Yeah.
And I'm going to enjoy doing that later on. But for now, I gave good grades. I like these drafts. I think they did a good job.
That's very valid. As you can see, I am much more of a.
And even still, you gave out fairly good grades. These are all passing grades, other than that C minus.
Yeah, I mean that's passing.
Is a C minus passing? I've never had a teacher actually give out minuses.
A D's passing technically.
Really?
I passed in one college class with a D. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Nice. But you know what they say, man. C's get degrees. C is a passing grade. Cowboys and Commanders, in your opinion, they might have nailed it, but it's not terrible.
If they're able to develop correctly, and if they play their draft absolutely correctly, I think it can be a really, really good draft when we're looking back on it in a couple years. But it's one of those things where, God, the margin of error is so slim for that.
It's a very risky draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the Eagles especially, they went with like one of the safest drafts in this. We both agreed there. Very happy to see that other people are higher on the Patriots than I am.
Especially people who might not necessarily like the Patriots,
fair enough,
such as myself. I like them now that they have Drake May instead of Tom Brady. I hate Tom Brady, but I love Drake May.
Drake May actually has a personality, so.
Yeah, personality beyond making out with his kids.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you so much for watching.
Tell them what divisions we're doing next, David.
So we're probably going to head on to the West. We started with the East. Let's go to West, and then we'll do probably North and South. So with the West, we're going to have Kansas City, Raiders, Broncos, and the Chargers, and then NFC West, I'll be honest, they're kind of
Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, and
Niners.
Yeah.
So lots of good content coming up for you guys in this next week, hopefully. We're gonna get that in for you, get this all taken care of. Any closing thoughts with this?
No, I'm just excited to finish out this report card. I think it'll round itself out over time. I'm going to try to grade on a bit of a curve here. So there's going to be some D's and then some A's left. This isn't the best of the best yet, other than maybe the Eagles.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen the worst yet.
Yeah, for sure.
The Falcons. But I don't even know. I still have to do some reading, some research into the other draft classes. There might be one worse than the Falcons out there.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not.
But maybe.
Maybe.
You'll have to watch to find out. Like and subscribe.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Peace.